The Zirans had never known defeat. Across countless star systems, they were the rulers, the unmatched force the beings others whispered about in fear. Their fleet stretched like a river of light across the void, shimmering with energy shields and sleek warships that dwarfed the largest human vessels. In their eyes, the universe was theirs to command, and every new system they conquered confirmed their superiority. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn, Commander Valon smiled as he observed the celebrations below. Holographic displays showed planets freshly claimed, their skies and surfaces mapped and catalogued in meticulous detail. The Ziran fleet had moved through the neighboring system with efficiency and precision, encountering no serious resistance. Any who had dared to oppose them had been eliminated swiftly and without hesitation. Victory was expected, but the way it had come so easily still thrilled Valon. "Report from the observation deck," he demanded, his voice smooth and confident. "Sir," came the voice of Lieutenant Crowell, "our scouts confirm no remaining organized forces in this sector. Civilian populations have either surrendered or evacuated. All systems are secure." Valon's segmented eyes glimmered with satisfaction. "Excellent. Begin the preparations for the ceremonial claim. Let the rest of the coalition see our triumph." As the crew scrambled to execute his orders, the Ziran fleet moved like a living constellation. Ships shifted into formation, energy fields pulsing in rhythm, a display of power meant to inspire awe and fear. Meanwhile, on the surface of the central planet in the system, Ziran citizens poured into the streets to witness the arrival of the fleets and the official declaration of control. Banners shimmered with iridescent colors, and floating holograms celebrated the leadership of the Ziran coalition. The aliens celebrated loudly, their voices ringing with pride and confidence. There was no doubt in their minds. No force in the galaxy could challenge them. Yet, on the horizon, a small silver ship cut through the stars, moving with calm precision. Unlike the massive Ziran warships, it was compact, almost fragile-looking. From it emerged a group of humans, stepping onto the planet's surface with cautious curiosity. The Zirans barely noticed them at first. Humans were small, slow, and technologically inferior in appearance. They did not arrive with a show of weapons or shields. They came as observers, diplomats, explorers, but the Zirans saw only weakness. The human delegation was led by Captain Elias, a man whose eyes carried both curiosity and quiet determination. Beside him were engineers, scientists, and diplomats. They carried no weapons that could match Ziran firepower. Instead, they carried knowledge, ingenuity, and a calm confidence born from centuries of human survival against impossible odds. Elias took a slow, deliberate step forward, his boots pressing lightly into the alien terrain. He studied the towering Ziran structures, their precise angles and glowing panels, and even the citizens celebrating below. "They don't see us as a threat," he whispered to Ava, the engineer beside him. "Not yet. That's our advantage," Ava nodded. Her fingers brushed over the compact device strapped to her wrist. "I've been monitoring their networks. There are flaws. Tiny, almost invisible, but enough to make a difference if we act carefully." The Zirans' pride was their blind spot. Their fleets relied on rigid communication protocols, and their fleets moved in predictable patterns. They expected obedience from all systems and assumed compliance from anything weaker than themselves. Humans, by contrast, had never relied on strength alone. They thrived on improvisation, creativity, and adaptability. In their history, humans had survived ice ages, natural disasters, and threats from far stronger neighbors. That history was encoded in every human decision, every instinct, every calculated risk. Meanwhile, in the grand halls of Ziran governance, Commander Valon and his advisors prepared the ceremony. Plans were finalized to mark the system as officially Ziran territory. Holographic banners were tested, ceremonial fleets rehearsed, and speeches perfected. No one considered that anyone could interrupt or challenge them. Humans were insignificant. The human team moved carefully, blending into the activity around them. They asked questions, observed patterns, and took notes discreetly. Children in the Ziran city stared curiously at the humans, pointing and whispering to each other. Some adults glanced briefly, then returned to their celebrations. The humans' presence was almost laughable in scale compared to the massive, gleaming ships above them. "Stay calm," Elias said, sensing the tension in his team. "We do not panic. Observation first, action later." Hours passed. The Zirans continued their display of power. Lights flashed across the skies, ships swooped in formation, and citizens cheered for their leaders. Humans quietly moved from one observation point to another, noting weaknesses in energy grids, communication hubs, and fleet deployment strategies. Every movement was deliberate, careful. They knew that rushing in too soon would mean disaster. During a break in the celebration, Ava pulled Elias aside. "There," she said, pointing to a central control tower. "That network node controls communication across the fleet. If we can access it, even briefly, we can disrupt their coordination. Just enough to create a gap," Elias nodded. "We'll need precision. One wrong step and it's over for us." He looked at the humans around him. Engineers adjusting small devices, scientists scanning signals, diplomats ready to negotiate if needed. Each of them understood the stakes. They were surrounded by a civilization that could crush them instantly, yet they held an unshakable calm. As evening approached, the Zirans began their final rehearsals for the ceremonial claim. Ships hovered, energy shields pulsed, and the central platform awaited the arrival of Commander Velan. Humans observed silently, noting every detail, memorizing sequences, and calculating timing. To any casual observer, they were simply visitors, small, unremarkable, polite. Yet beneath their calm exterior was a spark of determination that even the Zirans could not detect. Velan, confident in his victory, turned to his council. "The system is ours. No one can challenge us. The humans will leave soon, and they will report nothing of importance. Let the celebration begin." But Elias and his team had no intention of leaving quietly. They were here not as conquerors, but as the unexpected force the Zirans had never considered. The human mind was their weapon, creativity, adaptability, and courage that could not be measured by technology alone. Ava whispered again, "The flaw is consistent. Their network protocols repeat predictably. We just need the right moment." Elias smiled slightly. "Patience. The moment will come." As the stars turned overhead and Ziran celebrations filled the skies, the humans waited, calm and focused. For the Zirans, this was a time of triumph. For humans, it was a time of observation and preparation. One step forward, one calculated action could change everything, and no one, not even the proud Zirans, saw it coming. The human delegation had settled into the shadows of the Ziran city, moving carefully, silently, like whispers on the wind. The celebrations above continued with no hint of interruption. Ships hovered in perfect formations, their energy shields shimmering like jewels against the darkening sky. Ziran citizens danced and cheered in the streets, oblivious to the humans quietly observing from below. Captain Elias crouched behind a low wall, scanning the massive central control tower. His eyes traced the flow of light signals streaming in and out. Every flicker, every pulse told a story. The Zirans believed in perfection, in rigid protocols and repetition. That was their strength, but also their weakness. "They rely too much on patterns," Ava whispered, crouched beside him. Her small device buzzed faintly as it intercepted a portion of the Ziran network. "Look here. Their communications loop every 12 cycles. Every 12 cycles, the same sequence repeats. It's predictable. If we can anticipate it, we can create a gap, just a few seconds, but it's enough." Elias nodded. "Timing is everything. If we move too soon, they'll notice. Too late, and we lose the chance." He glanced at the rest of the team. Engineers adjusted portable devices. Scientists monitored signals, and the diplomats kept watch over the streets to ensure no innocent bystanders would be caught in the chaos. Every human moved with quiet confidence, as though centuries of adaptation had prepared them for this single moment. The Zirans, meanwhile, were completely unaware. Commander Velan had issued strict orders for maximum display of power during the ceremonial parade. "Our victory must be undeniable," he had said. "No one in this sector should doubt our dominance. Not the humans. Not anyone." The humans were not in the streets to challenge the Zirans directly. They had no hope of matching the aliens in sheer force. Instead, they relied on ingenuity, observation, and subtlety. Every detail of Ziran behavior was noted: how their guards moved, the timing of ship launches, the speed of message transmissions, even the way their celebrations were structured to distract citizens and observers alike. Ava tapped her device again. Their fleet patterns are repetitive too. They rotate in a way that maximizes coverage, but it leaves blind spots along the orbit. If we synchronize our actions with those gaps, we can reach the command nodes without detection. Elias smiled faintly. "Good, that's what I wanted to hear. Every great plan starts with observation. Let's see how far we can push them before the parade begins. As the humans moved through the shadows, they noticed subtle details in Xeran infrastructure. Floating drones patrolled certain streets, but they followed strict paths. Energy barriers flickered for a brief moment whenever a new sequence began. The humans' devices were small, almost invisible, but capable of recording and analyzing these tiny lapses. A Xeran child, curious and fearless, approached one of the human engineers. He pointed to a small gadget strapped to her wrist. "What is that?" he asked in the alien tongue, his eyes wide with wonder. The engineer smiled gently. "It's nothing dangerous, just a tool to understand the world around us." She knelt slightly to meet his gaze. "We are travelers." The child tilted his head, clearly fascinated. "You are very small for travelers." "Yes," she said lightly, "but sometimes small things can do big work." She did not elaborate. The lesson was already embedded in their careful, measured movements. Humans had learned long ago that being underestimated could be a powerful advantage. Back at the observation point, Elias studied the city from above. "They celebrate like they own the universe," he murmured. "And perhaps they think they do. But everything we've learned tells a different story. They are strong but not perfect. That imperfection is our opportunity." Ava leaned close. "I've run multiple simulations on the device we could use to access the network. If we time it right with the next fleet rotation, we can create a communication blackout for just 12 cycles. That's all we need. Just one opening and their coordination collapses temporarily." "Good," Elias said. "We can't do more than that yet. Subtlety is key. One wrong move and all of this is over. But if we succeed, it will show them exactly what humans are capable of." Humans had always relied on adaptability, not brute strength. In wars of the past, they had survived far superior enemies through quick thinking and resourcefulness. It was an instinct that had shaped every human life. To observe, to improvise, and to act decisively at the right moment. That instinct now guided every step they took in the Xeran city. Hours passed as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the alien architecture. Xeran leaders continued preparations, unaware of the human presence that had mapped their every move. Every guard rotation, every signal transmission, every flaw in the fleet's deployment had been noted. "Look there," Ava said softly, pointing to the central tower. "See that node? That's the main communication hub for the fleet. If we can access it even briefly, we can disrupt their coordination. Ships won't know what others are doing. Orders won't reach the commanders. For a moment, everything falls into chaos." Elias nodded. "We'll need a team ready for immediate action. Timing, precision, and calm, everything depends on it." He looked over the gathered humans, each focused and ready. "Remember, the Xerans think we are weak. That is our advantage. We act not with force, but with intelligence and courage." Meanwhile, in the great ceremonial hall, Commander Valon rehearsed his speech. "The galaxy shall remember the power of the Xerans," he declared, his voice echoing across the chamber. "No world, no being, no fleet can challenge our might, especially not the humans. They are insignificant." The humans listened, hidden from view. Every word of arrogance, every confident proclamation was a reminder of what they faced, and why they had to act with care. Underestimation was the Xerans' greatest mistake. As night fell, the city transformed. Energy lights illuminated streets and buildings, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the ground. Floating platforms carried Xeran leaders above the crowd, showcasing power and wealth. The humans moved with quiet purpose, noting every detail of the display, memorizing paths, signals, and weak points. Ava whispered, "The network node will be vulnerable soon. The next rotation of ships creates a small window. We must be ready." Elias nodded. "Then we wait. Patience is our ally." The Xerans continued to celebrate, oblivious to the quiet observers plotting precision moves in the shadows. They believed that victory was permanent, their control absolute. But humans had learned to survive against impossible odds, to turn weaknesses into opportunities, and to act when no one expected it. Elias and his team sat silently, blending into the shadows as the night deepened. They were small, seemingly powerless, and yet in their calm presence was a spark that the Xerans could not see. A spark of ingenuity, courage, and determination that would soon prove to be far more powerful than any fleet or weapon. Hours turned into cycles. Humans adjusted positions, checked devices, and shared subtle signals with one another. They were ready. Every observation, every calculation, every detail had led to this point. They were ready to act when the opportunity arrived, quietly, swiftly, decisively. And in the shadows of the gleaming city, Captain Elias whispered, "The moment will come. And when it does, they will see us differently." For the first time, the Xerans would face a force they could not predict. And for humans, this was just the beginning. The humans had learned quickly that observation alone was not enough. The Xerans were strong, organized, and arrogant, but even in a society built on precision, there were cracks. Not all Xerans were loyal to the coalition's leaders. Some questioned the endless conquests, the unchallenged assumption that power was absolute. These dissenters were cautious, fearful, but they existed. And humans had always known how to turn even the smallest ally into an advantage. Captain Elias moved silently through the alleyways of the alien city, accompanied by Ava and a small group of engineers. Their devices hummed faintly, analyzing signals, scanning for movement and recording data. Everywhere they looked, Xeran patrols maintained strict schedules, ships followed predictable routes, and security drones followed repeating patterns. The humans had memorized these paths. They could almost walk through the city blindfolded. But even as the humans prepared for their moment, one of the dissenters made a subtle move. A Xeran named Kale, an officer disillusioned by endless wars and the arrogance of Commander Valen, observed the humans from a safe distance. He had noticed them when they first arrived and had quietly studied their movements. Unlike the leaders, Kale saw potential in their intelligence and adaptability. Perhaps, he thought, these small creatures could change what seemed unchangeable. Late in the evening, Kyle approached the humans under the cover of darkness. His appearance was cautious, every gesture measured, every sound minimized. "I know who you are," he said softly, his segmented eyes scanning for threats. "And I think you are not like the others." Elias studied him, noting his hesitation and honesty. "You mean you don't want your leaders to continue their conquests?" he asked. Kyle nodded. "Yes, they celebrate victories that mean nothing to me. They destroy systems without considering the consequences. I want change. But I cannot act alone." Ava exchanged a glance with Elias. "We do not act lightly," she said. "But if we can trust each other, there is a way to make a difference. One precise, careful action could change everything." Kyle's antennae twitched nervously. "I can provide you access to weak points in their network. The fleet relies on certain protocols that I can bypass, but only if humans can act decisively." Elias considered the offer. Trust was difficult but necessary. "We do not expect loyalty without reason. But if your knowledge can help prevent unnecessary harm and give us an advantage, we can work together. Under one condition: no civilians are harmed." Kale's posture straightened. "Agreed. I have no desire to harm those under my care." And so an unlikely alliance formed. A human delegation and a small group of Xeran dissenters, united not by friendship but by shared purpose and careful planning. Together they mapped routes, identified timing for fleet rotations, and pinpointed the weak links in communication networks. Every step had to be synchronized perfectly. Humans knew their strength was not in firepower but in timing, intelligence, and adaptability. Ava worked with Kale to develop a plan to infiltrate the central communication hub. "This is our window," she said. "Every 12 cycles, their network resets. If we act during that reset, we can create confusion across the fleet for a brief time. It's not enough to destroy them, but it is enough to change the battlefield." Kyle nodded. "I can disable security protocols for that window. You will have approximately 12 seconds. That is all. Use it wisely." Elias leaned against a low wall, watching the movement of ships in orbit. 12 seconds. That's enough for humans to show what we can do. That's all we need. Once they realize our capabilities, everything changes. While the humans and Kale coordinated, Xeran leaders remained oblivious to the brewing alliance. Commander Valen continued preparations for the ceremonial claim. Ships rotated in patterns meant to display strength. Banners shimmered across the sky, and citizens filled the streets with celebration. The leaders' overconfidence blinded them. They could not imagine that humans, tiny and seemingly weak, could exploit the cracks in their flawless system. Meanwhile, the humans refined their tools. Engineers tested small devices designed to access and manipulate alien networks. Scientists monitored fluctuations in energy fields and communication signals. Diplomats observed the streets, ensuring that any disruption would avoid harming civilians. Every human knew the risks, yet every human also knew the potential. This was not a mission of brute force, but of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Kale provided additional insight. The Xiran fleet relies on repetitive commands. Their officers follow strict routines, and their messages are predictable. You can use this to your advantage. But beware, the leaders are clever. If they detect interference, they will retaliate immediately. Elias smiled faintly. Clever is relative. Humans are unpredictable. That is our strength. As the night deepened, humans and dissenters moved in synchrony, rehearsing timing and positioning. Kale guided them through hidden passages and energy shields, ensuring that they would reach the central hub during the critical window. Every step was deliberate. Every movement calculated. Outside, the Xiran city was alive with celebration. Ships glided above in perfect formations, their hulls gleaming under the alien moons. Holographic banners proclaimed victory and strength. Yet amidst the display of power, the humans observed patiently, waiting for the exact moment when their subtle strategy could make an impact. Ava whispered, "The window is approaching. Prepare devices. Timing is everything," Elias nodded. "Remember, no panic. If anything goes wrong, retreat and reassess. We act decisively or not at all." Hours passed. The Xirans continued their celebration, unaware of the careful observers moving through their city. The humans studied every detail: energy flows, communication signals, and the positions of key officers. They memorized every path, every pattern, every flaw. Patience was their greatest tool. Then, finally, the window arrived. The network began its cycle reset, just as Ava predicted. Kale disabled the security protocols, opening the small gap. 12 seconds stretched before them like an eternity. It was enough. Elias motioned to the team. Move. Engineers activated devices, scientists monitored the flow of signals, and diplomats coordinated movements to ensure the streets remained safe. The humans entered the central communication hub, compact, fast, and precise. Their devices interfaced with alien systems, creating disruptions and confusion. Messages failed to reach their intended targets, and fleet movements became disorganized. Outside, Xiran officers noticed the first signs of malfunction. Ships wavered in formation, communications faltered, and alerts rang across the city. Vaylon frowned, sensing something unexpected. But the humans were already retreating, blending once again into the shadows. Kale watched silently, his antennae twitching with relief. "It worked," he whispered. "For the first time, the humans showed them they are not weak." Elias nodded, though he did not celebrate. There was more to come, and the decisive moment was still ahead. But the alliance had proven its value. Humans and dissenters, working together, had created a crack in what seemed an unbreakable system. The Xirans scrambled to restore order, but the humans had already vanished into the night. Their presence lingered only as confusion, a fleeting reminder that the supposedly perfect fleet could be disrupted by intelligence and courage. As dawn approached, Elias gathered his team. "This was only the beginning. We have shown them that humans are not to be underestimated. The next steps will require precision, courage, and timing, but we now have allies who believe in change. That is more powerful than any weapon." Ava smiled. "They celebrate too early. They do not see the real challenge yet." Elias looked to the horizon toward the rotating fleets and gleaming city towers. "They will see it soon enough. One step forward changes everything, and we will be ready." In the shadows of the Xiran city, humans and dissenters alike prepared for the next phase. The unlikely alliance had been formed, and with it, a new hope, a chance to prove that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could turn the tide against even the most powerful opponents. For the Xirans, this would be a night remembered not for victory, but for the first whisper of change. And for humans, it was another step in a journey that would show the galaxy the true power of their species. The day of the ceremonial parade had arrived, and the Xiran city gleamed under the twin suns. Banners shimmered in the sky, celebrating what the aliens believed was their ultimate victory. Ships hovered in perfect formations, their energy shields flashing in a carefully choreographed display. Commander Vaylon moved among his leaders, his segmented eyes gleaming with pride. To him, the universe had been won, and the humans were nothing more than insignificant spectators. Captain Elias and his team watched from the shadows, their patience finally approaching its reward. Every movement, every calculation, every signal had led to this moment. Humans had studied the Zirans for days, learning their routines, memorizing their communication patterns, and discovering the small cracks in what appeared to be perfect systems. Now all that preparation would be tested. Ava checked her device one last time, her fingers steady despite the tension. "The window is almost here," she whispered. "All systems ready?" Elias nodded. "Remember, timing and precision are everything. We do not act with force but with strategy. One small step can change the course of this parade, and their perception of us." The humans had learned a vital truth. The Zirans believed that power alone determined strength. They did not account for intelligence, adaptability, or courage. The human team had spent days exploiting that blindness, quietly mapping the communication nodes and fleet rotations. They had identified the moment when the Ziran network would be most vulnerable. High above, the parade began. Ships rotated in perfect formation, energy beams reflecting across the city towers. Citizens cheered from the streets, oblivious to the silent observers hiding nearby. Vaylon raised his voice, addressing the gathered crowd. "The galaxy shall remember this day as proof of Ziran dominance. No world, no being, no fleet can rival us." Humans watched quietly, blending into the crowd of observers. Among them, Captain Elias moved with deliberate calm. He could feel the tension, not fear, but the energy of anticipation. Beside him, Ava monitored signals as her device pulsed with data. Engineers checked their compact tools, ready to interface with the Ziran network at precisely the right moment. Kyle, the Ziran dissenter, slipped through the parade's shadows to join them. His presence was quiet but significant, a living reminder that not all Zirans supported Vaylon's arrogance. "The network is ready," he whispered. 12 cycles. "That is all you have," Elias nodded. "Perfect. We move on my signal." The humans' plan was simple in concept but required perfect execution. Ava's device would create a temporary disruption in the Ziran network, just enough to confuse ship movements, block communications, and throw the fleet into chaos. 12 seconds was all they had. In that time, the aliens would be powerless to act with coordinated precision. The parade reached its peak. Vaylon floated above the crowd on a ceremonial platform, the fleet aligned behind him like a river of light. "We are invincible," he shouted, confident that the humans posed no threat. The very audacity of his declaration highlighted the blind arrogance the humans had been studying for days. Elias gave the signal. Ava activated her device. A soft hum filled the air as invisible signals streamed into the Ziran network. At first, nothing appeared to happen. The aliens continued their celebration, unaware that the subtle disruption had already begun. Then, almost imperceptibly, ships wavered in their formations. Energy shields flickered. Communications repeated, looped, or failed entirely. "Now," Elias whispered. Engineers and scientists sprang into action, guiding devices to key nodes in the network. Messages were intercepted, rerouted, and scrambled. The fleet, once a flawless display of power, began to falter. Ships drifted slightly out of position, patterns disrupted. Officers barked commands that never reached their intended targets. Chaos, carefully orchestrated by humans, spread across the city and fleet in silent waves. Vaylon's segmented eyes widened in disbelief. What is happening?" he demanded. "Explain this disruption." But no explanation came. The humans were already retreating through hidden passages, blending into the crowd as if nothing had occurred. Yet the damage was done. The carefully timed network disruption had shown the Zirans something they had never expected. The humans were not weak, predictable, or irrelevant. They were clever, adaptable, and capable of altering the course of events with intelligence rather than force. Ava's voice came over their small communicator. "Disruption complete." 12 seconds passed perfectly. "The fleet is disorganized, but no civilians were harmed." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Good, step back. Watch them react." The Ziran officers scrambled to restore order, but the humans had vanished. The disarray lasted only moments, but in that time, the Zirans had glimpsed the impossible. A species they considered inferior had turned the tide with precision and strategy. In the streets, citizens noticed the subtle wobble of ships overhead. Some whispered anxiously, unsure of what had caused the disturbance. The leaders tried to maintain calm, but for the first time doubt crept into their minds. Perhaps the humans were not as harmless as they had believed. Perhaps their arrogance had blinded them to a threat they could not easily see. Kyle watched the scene quietly, pride mixed with relief. The Alliance had succeeded in its first test. The humans had shown them what was possible when intelligence, courage, and precise planning were combined. "They underestimate you," Kale said softly to Elias, "and that underestimation is the key to everything." Elias nodded. "Yes, but we are not done. This was only the first step. One step forward can change everything, but we must be ready for the next move." Meanwhile, Vaylon struggled to regain control. His fleet corrected its position, but the disorganization lingered. He could not comprehend how a species so small and seemingly weak could cause such disruption. Every officer he questioned gave explanations that fell short. Every signal he monitored showed only fleeting confusion, but enough to shake his confidence. Elias and his team had demonstrated a principle the Zirans had never fully understood. Unpredictability and intelligence could outweigh brute force. Humans had used the system's rigid patterns against itself, exploiting every flaw without ever firing a weapon. It was a revelation that would change the Zirans' perception forever. In the aftermath of the disruption, humans regrouped in hidden alleys. Ava checked her device, ensuring all signals had returned to normal. "We're clean. No trace remains, just confusion and doubt." Elias looked at the city and the distant fleet. "That doubt is more powerful than any weapon," he said. "They now know humans are not to be underestimated. Every step we take from here will shape the future." The parade continued, but the tone had shifted. Even in celebration, the Zirans sensed uncertainty. Commander Vaylon, proud yet shaken, could no longer dismiss the humans as insignificant. Across the city, officers whispered in private, questioning the previous assumptions of absolute dominance. The humans had achieved more than disruption. They had shifted perception. Kale joined Elias and the team. "Your species? It is remarkable," he said. "I have seen many civilizations in my time, but humans, you are different. Clever, daring, and unpredictable." Elias allowed himself a faint smile. "We survive because we adapt. That is what makes us strong, even against those far greater than ourselves." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the city, humans and dissenters retreated to safe positions. The first step had been taken. The Zirans had celebrated too early, but now the perception of invincibility had been shaken. What had seemed like an ordinary day of conquest was now remembered as the moment the humans took one step forward, an action that would be told across the galaxy as proof that intelligence, courage, and careful planning could change the balance of power. Elias turned to Ava and the team. "We've done well, but the fight is not over. The Zirans will respond. We must be ready." Ava nodded, her eyes reflecting determination and pride. "They will come, but we are ready. We know their weaknesses now. For humans, the victory was not in destruction or brute force, but in proving a simple truth. Even the most powerful enemy could be challenged with strategy, courage, and a willingness to act when no one expected it. The ripple of that realization would spread across the sector, and the legend of humanity's ingenuity would grow. Above the city, the Ziran fleet corrected its formations, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Commander Vaylon could feel it gnawing at him, a recognition that humans were more than survivors. They were innovators capable of turning the tide with a single, decisive step, and in the shadows, Captain Elias smiled faintly. One step forward had changed everything. The aftermath of the parade left the Ziran city buzzing with confusion and curiosity. Ships hovered in orbit, still correcting formations while officers whispered urgently among themselves. Commander Vaylon paced in his flagship, the Eternal Dawn, his segmented eyes narrowing. For the first time in his long career, doubt clouded his mind. How could a species so small, so seemingly weak, disrupt a fleet of unparalleled strength without firing a single weapon? Captain Elias and his team observed quietly from hidden positions within the city. The humans had achieved what they set out to do: demonstrate that intelligence, strategy, and courage could change perceptions, even in the face of overwhelming power. The Zirans were shaken, not defeated, but forced to acknowledge that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Kael, the Ziran dissenter, joined the group. "Your species?" he said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "You are remarkable. I have served the fleet for decades, and I have never seen such precision and courage. You have changed something here today." Elias nodded. We did what we had to do. Not with weapons, but with careful planning. Humans survive by adapting, by thinking differently, by acting decisively when no one expects it. Ava adjusted her devices, still monitoring signals from the fleet. Their communications are back online, but the disruption has left them cautious. They will think twice before underestimating us again, and they will be looking for weaknesses in their own systems. That gives us an advantage for the next move. The humans did not celebrate their success. They were cautious, aware that this was only the beginning. The Xerans' pride and arrogance might slow them, but it would not disappear. Any careless action could undo all the progress made in a single moment. Meanwhile, across the city, Vaylon called an emergency council. Officers filed in, each carrying reports and explanations. The humans, they are not insignificant, one officer admitted, tension in his voice. They interfered with fleet communications without weapons. How is this possible? Vaylon's antennae twitched as he considered the reports. They have courage, he said slowly, and perhaps intelligence. But they are still few. We cannot allow this demonstration to define them. We must learn from it, correct the flaws, and maintain control. Yet even as he spoke, a subtle unease lingered in the room. The humans had not just disrupted the parade, they had shaken the Xerans' sense of invincibility. That realization spread quietly among officers and citizens alike. Humans, previously dismissed as insignificant, had shown that adaptability, ingenuity, and precise action could match the mightiest fleets. In the hidden alleys, Elias and his team prepared for the next stage. Kale provided additional insight about fleet rotations, security protocols, and vulnerabilities in communication nodes. You have shown them what is possible, Kale said. Now you must be ready for any response. They will not forgive this lightly. Elias nodded. We are ready. Humans are patient, careful, and adaptable. That is our greatest strength. We will continue to act where necessary, and we will protect those who cannot defend themselves. Ava checked her device again. The Xerans are analyzing every detail. They will change protocols, adjust patterns, but even in doing so, they will reveal more weaknesses. They underestimate our ability to adapt, and that is their flaw. As the day progressed, small groups of Xerans began approaching Elias and Kale cautiously. Some were curious, others hesitant, but all had one question in common. Who were these humans, and how had they accomplished such a feat? One officer, younger than most, stepped forward. I saw what you did. You think differently. You act differently. I want to learn from you. Elias considered the offer. Humans had never conquered through fear alone. They had always understood the power of cooperation, knowledge, and strategy. We can teach what we know, he said. But you must understand one thing. Respect is earned, not demanded. And it comes from action, courage, and integrity. The officer nodded. I understand. I am willing. This marked the beginning of a transformation. Humans, though few in number, began to earn respect among former enemies. Not because of technology or strength, but because of their intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Across the city, whispers spread. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, capable of turning the tide in ways the Xerans had never imagined. Vaylon, isolated in his command chamber, studied the fleet. Ships were in order, but the sense of absolute control had been lost. He realized that humans were unpredictable, clever, and capable of actions no rigid protocol could anticipate. For the first time, he felt caution, the strange awareness that power alone could not guarantee victory. Back among the humans, Elias spoke to his team. Today we demonstrated what humans can do when underestimated. Tomorrow we will continue to prove it. But we must remain careful. The Xerans will learn, and we must stay ahead. Adaptability is our greatest weapon, Kale smiled faintly. They will respect you now, whether they admit it or not. And that respect, it will change everything. Over the next cycles, humans and dissenters began working together more openly, carefully sharing strategies and knowledge. Xeran officers who had once dismissed humans now sought guidance, eager to understand how such small beings could act with such precision and effect. Across the sector, the story of the humans' clever intervention spread, inspiring both awe and caution. Citizens, too, noticed the change. Humans walked openly in parts of the city, not as conquerors but as innovators and problem solvers. Their courage, intelligence, and careful action earned admiration, even from those who had once cheered only for the Xeran leaders. Elias addressed his team one evening, as the sun set behind the distant horizon. "This is more than a victory," he said. "We have shown that intelligence and courage can matter more than size or strength. The galaxy will remember this, and humans, our species, will be recognized not just as survivors but as innovators, peacemakers, and, if necessary, formidable opponents." Ava nodded. "They underestimated us. That mistake will echo through their fleets for years, and we are ready for what comes next." Kale added quietly, "I never believed in humans before, but now I do. They are clever, adaptable, and fearless when necessary. Your actions today will be remembered. The Zirans will respect you, and that respect will shape the future." Even Commander Valen, forced to acknowledge the humans' capabilities, realized a fundamental truth. Strength alone does not define victory. Adaptability, courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act decisively were equally, if not more, powerful. Humans had shown this with one simple, calculated step, an act that would ripple across the galaxy for decades. In the days that followed, humans continued to interact cautiously with the Zirans, offering solutions, sharing knowledge, and building alliances. The dissenters, inspired by human ingenuity, began to advocate for more careful strategies, showing that cooperation could achieve results far beyond what brute force ever could. The humans' legend grew, not through conquest but through ingenuity and courage. Across the sector, species took note. Humans were small, yes, but unpredictable, intelligent, and resourceful. They were beings who could change outcomes not through destruction, but through careful observation, planning, and action. In the end, humans had proven more than just their capability. They had proven their value. Captain Elias, Ava, and the entire delegation had demonstrated that one step forward, taken with courage and precision, could shift perceptions, inspire respect, and change the course of history. And so the humans were celebrated not as conquerors, but as a species to be watched, respected, and understood. The Zirans would never forget the day they underestimated humanity, the day a small delegation changed their understanding of power, and the day a single, careful action revealed that intelligence and courage could rival even the greatest fleets in the galaxy. The legend of that step forward would spread far and wide. Humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, peacemakers, and, when necessary, a force that no one, not even the most powerful aliens, could ignore. Captain Elias looked out over the city one last time, the twin suns casting long shadows across the streets. "One step forward," he said softly, "can change everything. And today we've proven that humans are never to be underestimated." Ava smiled beside him. "We've started something bigger than any one of us." "The galaxy will remember this," Kale nodded. "Indeed. And for the first time I am proud to serve alongside humans. Your courage and intelligence have opened a new path, for all of us." Above the city, the Ziran fleet corrected its formations, yet the shadow of uncertainty remained. The humans had shown them that power was not only measured by fleets or weapons, but by the ability to adapt, to think differently, and to act when no one expected it. And in the hidden corners of the galaxy, the story of that first human step spread, a story of courage, ingenuity, and the reminder that even the smallest, seemingly insignificant species could make a difference. Humanity had claimed more than respect. They had claimed a place in the hearts and minds of allies and former enemies alike. One step forward had changed everything.